Welcome to the 12 Days of Edition Wars, a series in which we take a deep dive into the Dungeon Master's guides written for the previous editions of our favorite game. We aim to discuss what worked, what didn't work, what got pulled into future editions, and what got left by the side of the road. And on the 5th day of the 12 Days of Edition Wars, my GM gave to me 5 gold rings. Protection, RAM, telekinesis, fire resistance, yeah, something like that. Anyway,
wait, that's only 4. There's a 5th one. 5 golden rings.
Yeah, just feed me a 5th one, dude. I'm struggling here.
A ring of featherfall.
Ring of featherfall. Thank you. So this is chapter 11, encounters, and I mean, what you really have here is some of the most sort of pure instructional, here's how to make a functional thing, kind of text in the whole book. Like, here they're actually teaching you how to make an adventure in, like, on the page, even more than in your mind and your players' minds. And, you know, there's a lot of, I've talked so much about how the examples of characters and sort of their iconics, they didn't call them iconics in the second edition, but their iconics, like, stuck in my imagination. There's a bunch of that here, with Rupert and Algorand and Taras Bloodheart, and I don't know. They do a lot of things in these encounters that I sort of thought D&D was supposed to do, but we don't actually ever do as a thing.
So, like, the reason I like this encounter, this chapter, is at least this first part, is that it literally says, "Here's what an encounter is. Here is how to plan one."
Yeah.
And then here's some tips on what to think about when you're planning this, because and hey, here's random encounters, and here are some characteristics of random encounters, and do you use a table, and here's what to think about when you're using a table, and what effects will this have. And it's very pure, let me teach you how to do this. And that's something that even in 5th edition we don't necessarily get a lot of. I can't help but so last night you and I were on an episode where we reviewed Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, and one of the things that I said in that episode was, the book kind of assumes that the DM who's reading it already is going to know just instinctively how to implement everything that's in it.
Yep.
And that's something that this DMG for 2nd edition doesn't assume in this chapter, at least. And I really appreciate that. It's actually teaching you how to do it.
Yeah. As much as anything, though, I think it's interesting that it does focus on the creator side rather than the, okay, so you've bought an adventure, how do you implement this side?
Well, so, and that's where the onus then in that case is on the adventure you bought to teach you how to run it, which is also something we talked about last night.
For sure.
And so, but that's not the responsibility of this DMG. At least that's not what they thought was the responsibility of this DMG. Otherwise it would be in there, but it's not. Yeah,
it's clearly not where Zeb Cook's head is when he's writing this. And I mean, I respect that. It's the one that doesn't sort of enrich TSR as much, but it is better for the reader. It is more purely beneficial instructional text, and you can't hate that.
And after it tells you how to make an encounter or how to structure an encounter, it tells you how to DM an encounter.
Yeah.
I mean, this chapter is really good. It has flaws, like anything.
Well, sure.
It doesn't have it's not perfect, no chapter in this book or any DMG is perfect as far as I'm concerned, but it even goes so far as to, at the end it has a section on, well, here's how to fix this in play. Like, is the encounter too hard? Did the encounter have too large of a treasure reward? Was the encounter too easy? Like, and granted, they don't spend too much, they don't spill too much ink on that, but at least they're acknowledging that it happens.
For sure. Yeah, I think it's a really good chapter of some of the most purely practical advice that they have to give, sort of from one experienced GM who still had to learn it rather than invent it because Zeb isn't Gary or Dave Arneson, right?
Sure.
Right. So he had to learn it rather than invent it himself, but there's a lot of good, solid content here for thinking about what all of it would mean and how it would come together. Like, I like the distinction between keys and triggers because it does sort of indicate an awareness that not every adventure is going to be a dungeon crawl, which was already not the case in first edition. And you can tell because of what some of the topics are, but at the same time, there's such a focus on sort of the dungeons where you go extract money that
right that's
really getting
that's the source. It's the source of your resources, so we have to spend a great deal of time and energy telling you how to adjudicate that sort of adventuring.
Right. But I think triggers are really solid for event-driven adventures. That's good stuff. A discussion of random encounter tables. That's something we're still discussing today on the regular.
Right. Well, and here is a section of this book that could probably be applied to a 5th edition product I just purchased, which is the Wilderness Kit.
Yep.
There is an entire section on the frequency and chances of having a wilderness encounter based on the type of terrain and what time of day it is. Now, I'm not saying 5th edition should put that in there, okay? But I'm just saying there's a lot to think about when you're thinking about a wilderness encounter. It talks about when to make a wilderness check. It talks about the frequency, the encounter size, how far away it should start. Is the party surprised or not? Those are exactly the types of things that the DM needs to know. It's very procedural. But sprinkled throughout this entire chapter are little snippets of, here's how to implement this, right? Perhaps an area of a nearby forest is regularly patrolled by the Night's Wardens, who drive off the greater threats for the safety of the population. Lone monsters often escape their notice. Sometimes they raid the outlying farms. Special encounter tables can be created to reflect the lower levels of monsters that do manage to lurk in these woods, providing low-level characters with a decent but not overpowering challenge. It's telling you how to implement the information that it just gave you. And it's perfect.
Yeah. Yep. There's good stuff here. I remember as a kid, I just sort of bounced off of the 2 to 20 table that this suggests, and I didn't run enough serious dungeons to ever engage with the dungeon level thing here. Talking about table 55. So a lot of this, I sort of read it and had in my head that I was supposed to absorb it and internalize it and apply it, and then didn't do that. And I mean, I don't know. I can't quite put myself back in my head at the time enough to explain why I didn't put more energy into bringing this into my game, but I just didn't.
Well, I mean, so the thing is that this particular table that you're talking about, it's almost a holdover from first edition, right? Remember,
For
in
sure.
first edition, there was this really elaborate structure around how many experience points do you get for a creature, and the typical way to set up a dungeon was the first level of the dungeon has creatures that are, for the most part, not always, but for the most part, appropriate for a level 1 party. And so if a level 1 character is in the dungeon at level 1, when they vanquish that monster or help vanquish that monster, they're going to get full XP. But if they're level 2 and they vanquish a creature that's typically found on level 1 and the creature is low enough level to be a mediocre challenge for level 1 characters, that level 2 character doesn't get as much experience, right?
Yeah.
For that creature. Also, the reverse is true. If a level 2 character ends up on the 4th level of the dungeon, maybe they fell through a pit or down an accidental slide, or went through a one-way door that forced them to go down a set of stairs eventually, and they find themselves on the 4th level. Now they're fighting creatures that are kind of above their pay grade, but they're getting an extra amount of XP for it because they are fighting above their pay grade. And so that kind of rigid structure is sitting right here in this table.
Yeah.
But the thing is that in second edition, they also changed the way that experience is awarded a little bit, not a huge, enormous amount, but enough. And so it's not quite as structured, but it's a little bit structured. And if you're coming from first edition and trying to translate things, or if you just like the look of a second edition module and you want to grab it and use it in your first edition game, this type of table is really good for you to use. But I could totally see why you wouldn't necessarily incorporate it into your thought process of planning a game, because you're not a super duper dungeon focused kind of DM.
Yeah, like I always wanted to be the kind of DM that would like really get to that intense engagement with the mega dungeon, and I'm not.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just not.
Yeah.
And it's okay.
I used to be.
Yeah,
And
you've definitely talked about it before, and I find it
yeah.
really like even now I find it really exciting to listen to
Mm-hmm.
stories about a mega dungeon done well.
Right. And one that's done well is it's like chef's kiss. It's excellent. I
Right.
mean,
And my wife
but
has run a mega dungeon that I've really
mm-hmm,
enjoyed playing,
mm-hmm.
but
Yeah. Well, her and I were on the Tome Show episode where we reviewed the Dungeon of the Mad Mage,
yeah,
and we kind of schooled Jeff and whoever else was on that episode about, well, here's why this is an adventure, and here's why this mega dungeon is structured this way, and here's why it meets the criteria for both of those things, a mega dungeon and an adventure. And
well, that's an important duty for the Tome Show's general manager.
That's right. Yes. I was promoted last night, folks. I'm now the general manager. General manager.
This is how you can tell when we recorded this episode.
That's all right. Whatever. But you know what I mean? So I love the mega dungeon, but the thing is that it's very far removed from the state of the game now. I'm totally going off on a tangent, but that's okay. We knew this was going to happen, right? It's completely removed from kind of the way that the game works nowadays, and the ethos that most players come in with is adventure and intrigue and parlaying and talking to the king and becoming the heroes of the town and 1,000 other different types of stories. Those aren't the only ones, of course, but
yeah.
Most of them don't. Most of them use kind of the 5x5 dungeon, right? Like 5 rooms, that's your dungeon. That's not a mega dungeon. That's a basic dungeon. It's not very big. You can get through that level in probably one session and leave and go back to town, and you obtained something or some knowledge, and then then you spend some time doing other things.
Yeah.
You don't have a mega dungeon campaign in general the way that it used to be expected that you would have it, or at least the word on the street was it's expected you have it in basic and first edition. Because the sort of ethos has changed, you really have to get players who really want that, who really buy into that, because it's hard to run 5th edition in a mega dungeon.
Fair.
So you either have to run. It's not impossible, but the way that the ethos is set up around skill systems in 3rd, 4th, and 5th edition, it's harder to run a mega dungeon in the way that and this is totally a me preference thing, in the way that I think that it's supposed to be run to make it what it's supposed to be. The experience that it's supposed to give is very difficult in 5th edition. So if you don't have buy-in, you're not going to get that experience.
Interesting. We should do a whole separate episode on this
anyway,
sometime. Just
yeah, we
I'd like
probably
to
should.
work through it in a lot of detail with you, but maybe outside scope.
Yeah, totally outside the scope. Anyway,
so I do really like as the section gets on into wilderness encounter tables and special encounter tables, again, because it tosses out a lot of imagined game and world that isn't intended to be your actual setting. There's not the faintest pretense in the text that you're actually going to play in the setting that is sort of casually getting name dropped, or that it is any setting at all. It's just my placeholder name actually sounds pretty cool. It is sort of the sense of it.
Right.
And then we get into DMing encounters, which is a really nice thing to include again. This is practical. This is ruthlessly practical, and I love it. The frequency and chance of wilderness encounters. I hate this table for existing.
Well, that's the one that I mentioned earlier, right?
Yeah, just getting into your 24-hour encounter cycle broken up into 3-hour chunks, and your encounter chance at each of the. Oh no.
Well, see, let me tell you why I find this this table kind of quaint, and I actually enjoy this table. The reason is because this is exactly the impetus to the idea of, well, you should be running your characters, your party, through this many encounters per adventuring day, which is something that we get in 4th and 5th edition. Is, well, everybody should be going through a certain number of encounters per day. That way you can ensure that you have used their resources and stressed them out, and they can take a short rest in between, after the second encounter. And that's how the game is supposed to be played, and that's how it's made, and blah, blah, blah. This is the beginning of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I can see that. I mean, one of the career-long problems of my games of D&D is just in any edition where they expect at least X many encounters in a day, and that number is substantially larger than 1.
Right.
I'm going to have a lot of days where that isn't what works out, because I'm much more following the flow of what the players decide to do. There would be a lot of sort of faffing around in a town that is still there's still story happening, and there's still combats happening, but there's not 3 to 8 encounters with short rests conveniently interspersed.
And so I will posit that the problem there is the definition of encounter and how we expect encounters to use resources.
Well, right. I mean, there are ways to spend resources on social and exploration encounters, but they don't tend to be as sort of resource hungry as a big burly brawl.
Right. And that's exactly what I mean. So, you might play a game where, and so also recognize this type of thing comes from a game where you can have a combat in 5 minutes or 10 minutes, literally at the table. So if you do 5 of those,
people are doing that.
I mean, so not all of them were. Not all of the encounters were that quick. But if you had a random encounter with 5 goblins in the forest, if
Sure.
it took you more than 5 or 10 minutes in first edition AD&D, something else was going on.
Yeah, you use the initiative system. That's what happened.
Well, okay, we've moved on from first edition. We don't ever bring that up again.
Well, I mean, that's my point, though, right? Like,
I know what you're saying.
in second
Yeah.
edition, if you're rolling initiative again every round, like that's dragging it out a lot.
Yeah.
Um,
But so like Castles and Crusades, you roll initiative every turn, and it, as long as everybody's keeping up and paying attention, it doesn't slow things down. But it doesn't have all the kits and fancy effects and all that stuff that second edition ends up having. Because Castles and Crusades pulls a lot of things from second edition, and one of those things is that roll initiative every round, and in some cases you have to declare your action depending on what you're doing. So it kind of pulls things from basic and second. But anyway, we're off on a tangent again. My point with this table is I like this table because it provides a guidance for an expected set of frequencies, right? Is it far too detailed because it's in 6-hour blocks? Hell yes. Is it a little too prescriptive? Hell yes. But if you didn't know at all how to do any of this, this might actually give you some insight into why a certain adventure module was written a certain way. Or you might think to yourself, hey, I just ran that adventure module and it wasn't like this at all. And that's either going to make you think, so this is a guideline and I can write something or run a game how I want, or wow, I wonder if this will be better than that module that I just ran, right?
Yeah. And like, in all seriousness, my issue with this table is I am not going to remember to go to page 101 in the DMG and just keep rolling on this one table based on the hour all day. I just won't.
Yeah.
And that's fine. It's not actually a problem. It doesn't. It honestly didn't earn the time we gave it, but that's okay.
Well, I think it did, because I think it really is something that it does have a lot of effects that bleed into other editions where we talk specifically about how many encounters per day.
Yeah.
And those things have an effect. I mean, look, a fourth edition had a huge issue with that because the encounters took so long. You couldn't have a game session where you had 4 or 5 encounters if you were above first or second level, because it just took too damn long. So how do you then track the adventuring day and the resources and all that stuff? It changes the way that the game interacts with the players. And this is very it's very specifically saying, here's what should happen in this particular environment.
Sure, that's fair. That's fair. I mean, what I do like is that it is, pressure to think about the terrain of your overland travel and not a direct line route, right? Above and beyond, while you're going to move slower in the swamp, you're
Right.
also getting 4 times as many encounters in the swamp as you are in the plains.
Right. And in the swamp, it happens at any time of day, whereas, in the Arctic regions, it's only happening between 3 and 10 p.m. And all the other times, you're not getting anything.
Yeah. Oh.
So it's a semblance of, let me world build and tell you in what environment the animals and creatures will be active.
Yeah, that's not bad. Then we get surprise rules, which are especially messy in second, as a lot of monsters have an idiosyncratic surprise mechanic of like only surprised on, or surprises on die values, and you can figure out how surprise resistance or being good at surprise balance each other out, but I don't know that it's made especially explicit.
Yeah, I mean, surprise is one of those tricky things where I feel like most of the time it should be obvious whether the party's surprised or whether the creatures are surprised or whether no one's surprised or whether both people are surprised.
Yeah.
And so surprise mechanics always kind of make me chuckle because the majority of the time the DM should just be able to say, well, because you were making noise walking down the hall, of course the ogre behind the door hid and was not making noise, and so you did not hear them, and now you are surprised when you open the door.
And that's definitely the 5e take, and I think it's the 4e take as well. And I have no actual problem with that. I do kind of understand wanting to hang it more squarely on dice, but I get there by thinking about special creature abilities in games like Arkham Horror, where some of the horrible monsters that you come across, and they're supposed to be genuinely horrific, and try to give you that a little thrill of dread and awfulness in the course of a fairly sterile board game.
Right.
So they have to think about how they're going to achieve that. Well, they get there by this creature surprises you and you take damage before even starting the encounter.
Right.
Well, in a game like Arkham Horror, that's brutal, and that's great. I'm glad they achieved that.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm not anti-surprise mechanics. I think there are times when it should come down to a die roll.
Sure.
But I think that
now we'd hang it on a stealth versus perception roll, and those are hard to do well because you get so many. Well, if there are 5 PCs rolling, someone's going to roll well. That's just numbers.
Right. Yeah.
And
which also speaks to why the DM would roll 1 D6 behind the screen.
Yeah, for sure. It's why the DM would roll something in secret, and it's why assassins are a tough subclass to play, because establishing surprise as a player is hard.
Yeah. So in any case, I mean, these surprise modifiers and whatnot, they're not bad.
No, it's fine.
It's fine.
It's just this is very, very much a DM screen kind of table. You're going to need it often. Right. You're not going to want to open to 1 or 3 to get it, and that's the story.
It'll be right there, right under the frequency and chance of wilderness encounters.
Right. And the next big table is encounter reactions,
which I love.
Which right, that's really great if you, as the DM, don't already know what the story of the encounter and what the mindset of the creatures is going to be, right?
Absolutely. And this, I could say the same thing about this, even though I love this much more than the surprise rules. I'll say the same thing about it. This is also one of those cases where it's perfectly fine for the DM to be able to say, I know exactly how this creature is going to react. I don't have to roll because I know that when those 2 goblins see the goblin boss get struck down, they're going to run away.
Yeah. And it just makes me think of an encounter in my campaign where there were these devils who were being perfectly friendly and chill, and the party was like, okay, we can talk to these guys. And then the devils name drop who they're working for, and then suddenly my wife's character is murdering all of the devils in a double quick on the double quick, and it's great because it was the wrong name. It was a nice time. A very memorable encounter for both of us, and I assume for the rest of the party. But you mentioned fixing things in play. Absolutely great advice. Absolutely great advice for just understanding. Things are going to go wrong sometimes. You're not going to get the outcome you want, and that's fantastic. The encounter gave away too much treasure is the only one here I feel a little weird about, and only because even judging what that is tough, right?
Yeah.
But
but here's the thing, though. I appreciate that they brought it up.
oh, for sure.
Because I think that especially new DMs might sometimes walk away from a session and think, man, they got way more from that whatever set of encounters, dungeon level, whatever it is, than I thought. They found all the secret treasure, like, oh no, and do I need to talk about this? Think about it, consider it. And at least it's mentioned as, sometimes this is what happens.
Yeah, for sure.
Especially if you're doing random treasure for a random encounter.
Yeah, absolutely. And the encounter was too easy. This is a non-problem.
Right.
It functionally says.
Yes, exactly.
But that will bring us to the end of chapter 11.
By the way, I'm also glad that they say that too, right?
Oh, yeah. That ends chapter 11, unless you have more you want to say on that.
No, I like that chapter.
Yeah, so. It's good practical stuff. And chapter 12 is NPCs. So chapter 12 has one of the pages I've been kind of referring to in our conversation up to this point as one of my favorites in the book. You have table 60, NPC professions. And this is, again, a little bit of a history lesson for just both words that are familiar but have changed their meaning. So, some jobs that are familiar that you're just going to know about. Nobody doesn't know what a sailor is. You read purse maker and you can work it out, right? But a sheather, a shearman, is even totally reasonable that many people, probably including 12-year-old me when I got this book, wouldn't know what a scrivener is.
Or that there's a difference between a furrier and a farrier.
Right. Or a difference
and a fletcher.
or between a gold beater and a goldsmith.
Right.
So it's a big table of professions, and some of them get defined. If it isn't defined, you can probably work it out by pulling apart a compound noun somehow.
Yeah.
But it's really nice stuff for just what kind of people are there in the world. If I have not done, a 101 course on medieval history or social histories in general.
Right.
And then we get a tiny little bit on hirelings, common and expert. But a lot of that's going to get pushed a little bit later. And we get the big three of special NPCs that you hire to do stuff for you. And I feel like maybe we gave these a good nod in our episode on the economy in second edition.
Yep.
But assassins, spies, and sages, how to solve problems through financial means is what we'll collectively call this. We have a problem. Our problem needs to die or be learned about in one way or another. Go.
Right.
I mean, the spies and the sage are essentially the difference between someone knows it now and someone knew it once.
Right. Yeah. Or someone is finding out about it right now, and someone has studied it for a very long time and is part of a group of people who have studied it for a very long time and know all about it. Other than maybe the perhaps details that happened just yesterday.
Right. I'm just disappointed that when it gets into things that sages need, what does a sage know? Questions should be categorized. Resources required. Sages need time. They don't include sages need a corner office with windows. That's weird, right, Sam?
Look, sages have a tower all to themselves. So if you find one without a tower, guess what your sage needs?
A really good chair to go in it.
Yeah. So, and then soldiers, it talks about troop types. Another sort of lesson on what these people will, what's the difference between heavy cavalry and light cavalry, or an artillerist and an archer? Like, those sorts of things. Gives a little paragraph for each of these. It's kind of nice.
Yeah, I was in love with this section as a kid.
Sure. Yeah.
Because it created a foundation of learning more and asking questions.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
I sort of don't even remember how much of my impressionistic understanding of everything before the early modern era it just stems from this.
Right.
I love the section on employing hirelings who might be offended. Depopulate at your own risk.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, it's true though, right? I mean, yeah. I also like the finding the right people. It's not just, you don't just walk into a tavern and say, all right, I'm hiring.
Well, and I didn't read Frank Mentzer's text from Beckme for several more years after I'd read this. But it does make me think of his tables on, so this is the title you assert, and this is the title of the other person nearby. This is how offended they are, which is a great table for just incredibly rare to come up in play insanity, and I love it. It's so great.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yes. Yeah, that was wonderful.
But like finding the right people is a bit frustrating to actually implement, just because I need an enormous number of people and I have no labor pool is a problem that's actually really hard to do anything about as a player. Like establishing any agency in that situation is complicated.
Right.
Then a weekly wage is all stuff that came up in our economy episode, but it's basically how much money does a standing army hemorrhage? And the answer is, could we talk about something else?
Right. Yes.
Military budget overruns? What?
Yeah.
Why is that part of my D&D?
And why are they constant?
Oh my god!
It's too much like real life.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's true though. But the thing is, this is one of those where, and this is one of those where they left out all of the stuff about taxes.
Yeah.
And now you know why Gygax had all of that.
Yeah, for sure.
In the first edition DMG, because he was also trying to give away for the king, baron, duke, whoever's ruling this region, to be able to raise this army and pay them. Well, what's he paying them with? Well, with all the taxes that he's collecting, right? Like that's just how it works.
Yep.
So in here, they skip that part of the conversation and just assume that you will be, look, if you're raising an army and you can spend 3,000 gold per month just paying the general part of the army, the generic kind of part of the army, we're not even talking about super duper expensive ones here. Well, then you probably are the baron already.
Yeah,
you probably are the fighter with his fortress, right? You are the person that they're looking for.
Yep. And I mean, that's for a fighting force of 500.
Right. Yes.
Right. Mm-hmm. And then you have, the various support staff that they require.
Right. But this 500 though, this isn't just 500 peasant farmers with their scythes.
Yep.
And pitchforks and spears coming to help you out. This is, light infantry, heavy infantry, longbowmen, bladesmiths, armorers, huntsmen, grooms, like the people who are doing all the, this is a little city where they're taking care of all of the needs of the army.
Yep. And, the text offers a very boiled down tax structure to pay for all of these people, month over month.
Mhm.
I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then the section on henchmen is super timely. It's super, super timely because in Tasha's Colors of Everything, what do we have, Sam?
We have sidekicks.
We have sidekicks. And this is like exactly the advice that you're going to get on sidekicks. Like it's just line by line. Everything about this applies to sidekicks perfectly.
Yeah. I mean, they could have named sidekicks henchmen.
Yep.
It's the same thing.
Yep. Absolutely it is.
Right. So where a hireling is literally somebody that you hire, could be a day laborer, could be somebody that you hire on a mercenary basis, but the person is not your friend, they're your employee. The henchman plays a dual role. They are probably your friend in some way. They are more of an equal to you in some way. And however, they also kind of are your employee a little bit, sort of, depending on how the game goes, right? Which is exactly what a sidekick is.
Yep. And I like the sort of handling of, okay, so who runs this in combat? Who handles the role play? This suggests this sort of assumes the player will role play the henchman with the DM stepping in case that relationship turns kind of implausible.
Right. You mean like the person ordering the henchman to do things that are directly against their best interest?
Yeah.
Yes.
You want what?
Come on, Brandis. You know that never happened.
Do I know that? I think maybe I don't know that.
I think you know it happened every single time.
Every time. Yeah. Yeah, there was actually a third ed game I was in where I had a sidekick. I came in playing a cleric, and the party was like my stats were astoundingly horrible, and the parties were low on melee brutes, and so I had a soldier who was also my responsibility to play in combat, and between the two of us, we were about as effective as one PC. It was rough. It was
rough. That's painful.
Yeah, my stats are real bad. I don't know what to tell you. So, I mean, that was the campaign that kind of put me off of randomly rolled stats for a little while, and got me on. You know what? Maybe arrays or point buys are good, and that trauma has since faded, and I've come back around to okay, you just need a safety net of stat blocks that can also apply. It's fine.
Right. Yeah. I think there's room for both types of character creation. I think I personally like rolling. I know it's not for everybody. I know it has problems.
Yeah, we've had really good effects from rolling along with a safety net. The safety net comes from 4th ed. There's a place in 4th ed where it offers like 11 different arrays, maybe 10 or 11 different arrays. And so I just turned that into a 2d6 like table, right? So my players roll 2d6, and that gives them a number. That number is a particular array. So it's still randomized, but and like 46 drop lowest is reasonably likely to give you something better than that array, but not worlds better. And kind of no one cares. Like as long as you can do at least a certain amount of okay, you don't really notice the rest.
Yeah, and 46 drop the lowest can still give you a 6.
But that is accurate.
Whereas that array will not give you a 6.
Yeah, I mean, in my wife's campaign, there's absolutely a bard with a strength of 4.
Nice.
It's improbable on 46 drop lowest, but here we are.
Yeah, but hey, snake eyes are a horrible thing. So then we go to titles, offices, and positions.
I love this. It's great.
Yep, me too.
For all the
There's
same reasons
also
I've loved everything else we've covered so far tonight, right?
right, yeah, and there's also a table with some European titles. There's a table with some Oriental titles. There's a table with religious titles. I love those kinds of
Yep.
things.
The Knights Skeleton I especially like,
Yep.
because this is sort of one of my first introductions to. So, what are the Knights Templar and the Knights Hospitaller like? Well,
Mm-hmm.
here's what they call themselves. Oh, that's
Right.
quite instructive. Yes, thank you.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, because, the thing is, like, in an organization like that, the title matters.
Yeah.
And in fact, in lots of organizations, titles matter. And if you might think not, you might not agree with that, but I think it matters if you're the Pope. I think it matters if you're a standard bearer.
Right.
I think it matters if you're the president of the college I work at. That matters, right?
Oh, for sure.
Those titles matter, and so titles can matter in your game too, as long as they match the theme and they're not offensive.
I not only agree with that. There's a thing in Byzantine history where the nobles of court had to really jockey against each other to get sort of the best titles and precedence in imperial processions for each new cycle. I don't know if a term was 1 year or 2 or whatever, but
right.
They would pay all this money, which would which would then be paid back to them in stipends, or otherwise use their political influence to get these positions. And I mean, I love that. That's great gaming fodder, because what a great way to get your PCs attached to the august personage of the emperor. That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And it would have all survived just fine, except that the nearby hostile empire of Arabs suddenly collapsed. Just suddenly fell over in a span of about 30 years. Anyway, guys, I listened to a lot of History of Byzantium. This has been your Byzantium facts update. Thank you. Very good.
So moving on.
Yeah. Well, I don't know what to tell you. The Dublin doubles are doing their thing, right?
Yeah. No, I mean, it's the thing is, it's fascinating, right? Like, I love that. I love stuff like that.
Yeah.
I'm totally listening to the History of Rome podcast.
The Mike Duncan one.
Yeah,
he's so good.
It's awesome. I'm a history geek.
Yeah, man.
And hey, here's the thing. The reason I'm a history geek is because of D&D. It's D&D's fault because of this stuff.
Learn from watching you, Zeb. Learn from watching you.
Yeah, right. I wanted to know, well, how come a Viscount is, 2 steps lower than a Marquis? And, what does that even mean in practice, right? Do they have different, do they get called different things? Why is the king or queen your highness? Like, what is, just crap like that, which was, for some reason, eminently fascinating.
Oh, sure.
And I love it.
Actually, the one thing I wish that I wish table 66 had included, well, 66 through 68, I really wish that they included titles of address, Highness, Majesty, Eminence, and so on.
Right. Yeah.
That would have been really, really nice, just as a immediately useful at the table kind of detail.
Yeah, there's a great. So if there was one thing that Gary Gygax was good at, it was taking the things that someone might find obscure, for example, pole arms, and doing things like spelling it out in painstaking detail and giving the specific name for each one, and that sort of thing. And there's a great book that he wrote that has. He wrote this Gary Gygax's world building, or what did they actually call it? It's like it was a series of 7 books, and it has a whole bunch of different different kind of helpful books in, and one of the books has that exact thing. It has the titles, and then it has, here's how you would address this person. And that is such an integral part of courtly behavior. I think we talked about this last time even, that actually makes a huge difference. In real life, that made a huge difference in the court.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you referred to someone as the incorrect address, you weren't recognizing their title, and that was highly, highly offensive, and depending on your own position, your own stature, could actually be punishable by criminal law.
Good times.
Yeah, it's so good.
Hey, you were not advised to enter my dad's courtroom and call him something other than Your Honor. I'm just throwing that out there.
Yeah.
So after table 68, religious titles, there's a very nice table of NPC spell costs, which we covered in ways to make PCs spend money. But it's very nice all the same.
Yeah. And I just want to point out, enchant an item, 20,000 gold plus other spells. Okay.
Outstanding.
Moving along.
Yeah.
And then there's like a whole section on personality.
Yep. Personality and loyalty and such. And this is actually a section that's really closely mirrored in the 5th Ed DMG.
Mm-hmm. Yep, exactly. That's where I was headed.
It's nice to see. It's a little bit. I guess it's thesaurus time.
Because of the general trait table. Did you?
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm getting at. Like, you look at courage, and it's kind of brave and fearless, and okay. Like, one of those is an intensifier of the other, but
well, like quiet is laconic, and secretive is on the list too. Okay, well, I guess if I didn't know what laconic meant,
which I didn't at 12, I assure you.
So, yeah, and me neither, right? That's probably, miserly, covetous, avaricious, thrifty, hard-hearted. I mean, so here's what they're trying to do. They have these general traits: argumentative, arrogant, capricious, careless, pessimistic, quiet, sober. And in each of these, there is a set of 5 specific traits that go with them. So you roll a d20 to get the general trait, because you're basically rolling to get something that's going to differentiate this NPC from everybody else. You can either roll a d20 and get one of the general traits, or you can roll a d100 and get a specific trait that is nested inside the general trait. Or you could roll the d20 to get the general trait, and then you could roll any other die that you can split into 5 equal parts to get one of the 5 that's related to the general trait. I mean,
that's fine.
It's whatever. The interesting thing about it is what it's trying to do. And what it's trying to do is give you one very quick way to show that PC has a personality and everybody is not just a cardboard cutout.
Yeah.
Some of them are not so easy to do, though, right? How do you show, okay, you can show absent-minded pretty easily, right?
What were we saying?
Right, exactly. See? Told you. What's the difference between being pleasant and being kind-hearted? How do you show the difference between those?
Well, so I have an answer for that, but it would take a lot of scene work to actually get that out on camera to show that someone was. So the difference between someone just being nice and doing kindness.
Right.
Do their actions back this up? Well, Lord, that's a storyline to try to get out in front of the characters.
Right.
But
which is what I'm getting at. Which is the problem with this table, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I don't get me wrong. I like the table. I actually think that it's a really good thing to be able to just quickly roll. And I mean, look, everybody has had it happen where you just have a throwaway NPC. You don't even have a name picked out, right? And the party is just in a store or something, and it turns out they end up really wanting to talk to that person and really wanting to, and so now you suddenly have to create a persona for this person.
Yep.
And if you're not prepared for that, this table is a great place to figure that out, or at least point you in the right direction, maybe give you some, creative juices.
Let's see. So there's a few more pages on quick NPCs. It's good advice. It's this works as well now as it did then, because it's just, I don't know. It's very much improv 101. Like, how much character do I need to make this scene happen? Well, do that, right? And be ready to improvise new bits into place.
Yeah. And probably the most important part of this chapter is the very last two paragraphs, which are the tip to do your homework before and after game sessions.
Yep. I have always regretted the time I have not been able to give a campaign in terms of just that level of maintenance.
Right.
It really is one of the things that sets Critical Role apart. Is Matt's just reams and reams of prep work that have gone into characters and establishing characters.
Right.
Then we'll get to chapter 13, Vision and Light. I have very little I want to say about this overall, which is usually the lead into a 20-minute digression.
I also don't have very much to say about this.
I am delighted by the massive optional infravision sidebar. That I think is great for just, well, okay, what if your players insist on being more scientific about their infravision? You what?
Yeah.
And it's a mess.
Right.
And that's fine.
I mean, whatever. It's that has been, it's a thing, right?
Yep. And I do want to say that the standard infravision model, where it allows characters to see in the dark, nothing more is said about how this works, it simply works, is what I think people get wrong in 5th Ed Dark Vision. It's really, really easy to forget what it actually says and just treat it as, you can see fine in the dark.
Yeah. In 5th edition, you don't see color.
As dim light.
Right.
In dim light, you have disadvantage to perception checks.
Right. And you don't see color.
Right. You see as well as a person would in dim light. The dim light around a torch. Not actually very well is the answer.
Right.
Right. You can say you can't see color, but if you've ever tried to read in dim light, actually dim light of, between 21 and 40 feet from a torch, that we're talking about, you probably can't read that, actually. That light is probably not enough to read by, which now we're getting into something more practical in terms of the party needing a torch.
Yeah, well, so for me, the reason that I am saying the thing about color is, if you can't see color, it's a lot easier for something to hide from you.
Oh, yeah.
Because everything is shadows.
Yep.
Everything is shades of gray. And even if you have some amount of higher acuity night vision, it's not as good as vision in bright light. Human beings who have vision in bright light, the reason you see color and high acuity is because the light is bright.
Yep. Anyway, about that 20-minute digression.
You're talking to a biologist.
Yeah,
Don't bring up vision.
No, it's cones and rods, and I get that, right?
Yeah.
And
But that's why. But see that this is why the answer that you're talking about with standard infravision is the right answer, right? Or is the easiest to implement because it doesn't have to be based on real biology. It's a fantasy world.
well, so the reason that I like 5e's dark vision and really starting to think about it as you can see as well as you can in dim light is just light sources still have a point,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Right.
The
Yeah.
human carrying the light source is not just a failure of stealth
Mm-hmm.
for the rest of the party,
Yep.
which it otherwise is.
Right. So this is probably one of the best reasons to use a virtual tabletop.
Mm,
Because when you have something like Roll20 and you set up the lighting, the person's token that has the torch, the light goes with them. And if they run 20 feet to attack the thing that they saw, and everybody else is left behind, their screens go dark. They can no longer see.
well, so my problem with that is that that's not actually how light sources work in the dark. Like you can't see the ground in front of you, but you saw it enough to know where to walk. But that's not how a UI works, right? Your screen is not
Right.
dark enough that you can't see where to move your token. That's actually sort of a problem. Uh, like I've followed someone in the dark with a light source before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But the thing is, the idea is the same though, right? That if you're in dim light, you can see a little bit, but not that great. And if you're in bright light, you can see very well. But if you're not, you can't see. Yes, you can see a point of light, but you
Right.
can't see what's in between you.
So yes, it's just that the amount of light you actually need to cross fairly flat ground is is the you know what? Not important. It's not important. I don't.
Well, so I get where you're going. Look, to activate the rods, it's a very small amount of light, very, very small amount of photons that are needed to activate those. So if there's the least amount of light anywhere, yes, you'll see a little bit. But you're not necessarily on a flat piece of ground. I mean, if you're outside in Rime of the Frost Maiden while there's a blizzard going on and the person holding the torch runs away from you, you're
Well, sure. It's just that that's not about the torch anymore. That's about the blizzard.
sure.
It's about the
Yeah,
heavily obscured condition.
of course.
Anyway,
Anyway, so we said we were going to get off on a tangent. Let's move on. So, chapter 13 is fine. It's
yeah,
fine.
it's fine.
It's not necessarily necessary.
Well,
Uh,
the section on invisibility, it's hard to write succinct invisibility rules, and they sort of
yeah.
succeed here. Um, this is a fight I've had to fight more than once in terms of just how do you even write these so that they are cogent? And the answer is good luck.
Yeah. Right.
Um, and there's perfectly functional rules here, but
Yeah, sure, it's
anyway.
fine.
Um, so chapter 14 is time and movement. It's an interesting kind of flow of play chapter,
Mm-hmm.
uh, especially for larger spans of time, for like, overland movement. And it does have some advice to give around, hey, remember to do this if you want your campaign to seem realistic. Pay attention to your calendar.
I'm recalling the statement in bold that you read from the first edition
Oh yeah,
DMG when we talked about timekeeping.
yep,
And it went something like this: you can't have a campaign if you don't keep time.
yeah. Except with more passive voice, right? Because Gygax.
Right.
Um,
Yes. Yeah.
but right, this is this is good stuff. This is also where we just care about downtime in this book. Uh, time as a game balancer is the section that wants to talk about downtime. Um, preparing a calendar, the example of play here um, wants to talk
Is
about
totally
downtime.
hilarious.
Yeah,
It's been summer ever since my character started playing.
right. And That's a tough thing in games to like get players to engage with weather, not
Yeah.
just as a condition on their play,
Mhm.
but the way that people would actually engage with it. Like, we have a big overland journey to take, but there's no special time constraint. We're going to wait until it stops raining because we don't live in the modern world where you can be insulated from that. It's instead, travel is actually dangerous in the rain.
Mhm. Well, and there's also an element of like this thing specifically with this example with the summer. You know, uh, there's an element of if it doesn't matter what season it is, if it's not having any effect on anything that you're doing, whether it's because it's just doesn't matter or because the DM just didn't think about it or it doesn't care about it or whatever. Like the reason doesn't matter. If it is not something that's important in your campaign, then it's just not important. So the example of play where the person says, it's been summer ever since my character started playing, like, okay, but like, what difference does that make right now?
Yeah, on the other hand, I know that every DM wants to think of themselves as someone who presents a living world,
Sure.
right? Where
Right.
seasons come and go, time passes, the player's legend grows. All of this has meaning and richness.
Sure. I'm not disagreeing with any of that. What I'm saying is that I I've had very few campaigns where they didn't ask, they being the players at some point, didn't ask what month is it, what time of day is it, at least every second or third session, right?
Yep, yep.
So like, part of me is like, this example is kind of like, really, you know.
Yeah,
But part of me is like, but if it's a new DM and a new set of players, I could see this happening. And the answer to it is, well, okay, let's fix it right now. But I'm not going to sit here with you all staring at me, spending 2 hours to make a new calendar. Like, you know what I mean?
yeah, yeah. Which is why every setting has, that chapter up front where they trot out their calendar and their funky month
Mm-hmm.
names that
Right.
you're going to have to translate for the players every time you
Mm-hmm.
use them in play.
Yeah.
Um,
And then you're just going to have to get used to it when they say Thursday and Monday and all that as the day names,
right.
and September and October. And, yeah.
What can you do? I don't have a lot I want to say about mounted overland movement or care of animals or
Yeah.
vehicles. It's very practical stuff for the maybe fairly common, maybe more rare situation where you need to figure out how long something actually takes rather than time passes, it's like 2 weeks anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but
Although this section did teach me the difference between a Bactrian camel and a dromedary.
well, thank heavens.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, do you like two humps and you cannot lie?
I like two humps and I cannot lie.
All right.
You other camels can't deny.
Yep. Yep.
Oh boy.
Uh,
Anyway,
yeah.
but yeah, I don't have a lot to say about
Your
this.
humps, your lovely camel humps.
My humps bring all the boys to the yard.
Yep. I mean, in your setting, Wednesday can at least still be called Hump Day,
That's right. Yes.
but it's a thing about camels in this case.
Oh Lord. Whew. Okay.
Yep, it's fine.
Terrain and movement.
Terrain and movement. That's again, I don't have a lot I want to say in a practical sense here. Like these values are sort of giving you good reasons not to go to those places because um, it costs 8 times as much to travel through heavy jungle as through untraveled plains or grasslands, and 16 times as much as through clear farmland. Yep, you got me. We're not going there. Or we
Mhm.
have no choice but to go there because that's where the adventure is. But it's definitely one of those.
Right.
Um,
And once again, if this is not actually, are you going to do a montage? Okay, you've been traveling for 2 weeks. You went from the plains to the mountains to the Badlands.
yep. Yeah, making like landscape porn overland journeys really
Mm-hmm.
uh, fun to play out is not a skill that tabletop has mastered. Um, and really, film only gets it because of wide angle lenses. And
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Right.
we appreciate the life work of Peter Jackson, frankly.
I mean, I do have a small quibble with what you just said, not about the Peter Jackson, but about so there is a use for this if you're hex crawling.
Oh, for sure. I'm not saying there isn't a use for it, right? I just don't have a lot to say about it. Like,
But yeah, I mean,
there's stuff
my
in here.
point
It
is
seems
just
fine.
if you're montaging your travel mostly anyway, you're like rolling an encounter check once a day or once a week or something. Like, who cares what the movement cost is? You're going to calculate that as a mathematical equation and tell them how long they were traveling anyway,
Yeah, that's totally fair.
right? And whereas if you're hex crawling, it makes a difference.
Yep, yep. Yeah, there was a thread about hex crawling the other day that got me thinking about that again, just as a model of play that I have not
Mm-hmm.
actually experienced.
Mm-hmm. Well, again, it's in the more modern iterations of the game, it's something that is harder to accomplish in a way that mimics the old style way of doing it.
Yeah,
And just like mega dungeons are not necessarily for everyone. Well, hex crawl isn't necessarily for everyone. Yeah, there was a lot of talk about the wilderness kit,
yeah,
and it comes with a hex sheet and no real guidance on how to use it. A suggestion for what you can do with it in one sentence. Um, and I think the thing I said to you was that the interesting part is if they just added 2 or 3 more sentences, they could fully explain what the purpose of having that hex screen in that kit would be, and it would be fine. Nobody would be able to bitch about it. But I think part of the problem is people there's a certain contingent of people that want 5th edition to really be old school, and old school includes for those people hex crawling
yep,
and mega dungeons.
yep.
And it turns out 5th edition is not as old school as it can purport to be. And that's not a derogatory statement. It's a neutral statement from me. It's just not good at it unless you do it exactly right. It's not the game set up to hex crawl in. It's not the game set up really to mega dungeon in. So you have to make concessions to make it work. And then therefore that takes it away from the ideal or whatever. So anyway, ship types.
Yeah. So this section is very much just like Ghosts of Saltmarsh and Seas of Adari to me.
Yep.
Um, like most of this doesn't appear in the core rules of fifth ed,
Mm-hmm.
and the things this bothers to talk about are sometimes a little bit odd, but it's okay. They're basically fine. Um,
Yeah, it's funny because the tables make it feel like it's going to be extremely detailed, and then it gets like a half a page of text.
yeah. Um,
So it feels. I guess it gets a page and a half,
but
but still, it
but like
feels like the tables give it more gravitas than the text gives it.
this makes me like really appreciate the rules around crew interactions that center the people in Ghost of Saltmarsh. I thought that was
Mm-hmm.
a really nice bit in
Mm-hmm.
Ghost of Saltmarsh.
Yeah.
Um,
Yep.
and like it's really hard to um, make something really engaging around ship movement. We did everything we could in uh, our naval combat rules through
Mm-hmm.
tribality, but it's hard
Yeah.
because like even if you have 2 awesome ship minis on the table, it's still hard.
Yep. Yep.
Because round by round combat is not how real life works.
Right. Yeah, that's a tough one.
Um, then there's rules on aerial movement. We had pages and pages on aerial combat earlier. This is aerial movement,
Mm-hmm.
and getting lost. I always like this table stuck with me a lot. Just sort of lost and hopelessly lost as separate
Mm-hmm.
ideas,
Right.
and kind of feeling like this is a section I would really want to avoid having to use as a DM. I think I couldn't have phrased it at the time, but I think I had
Mm-hmm.
some awareness of my players are not going to thank me if this comes up.
Yeah.
I think they will not say to themselves, boy, this was a cool section of the adventure where we were
Mm-hmm.
hopelessly lost.
Right.
And it's not
Yeah.
that it can't be a cool section of the adventure, but making it dice driven is probably going to be a sore point
I
for
mean, once
modern
again,
players and for my players at the time
yeah,
because we were kids.
yeah. But once again, this is definitely a hex crawl thing, right? This is part of how you're adjudicating how you get lost or hopelessly lost, or how you get found, or how you find your way.
Right.
And if you're structuring a hex crawl around basically randomized, if you get lost, it's random which direction you end up pointing yourself in. Well, that's random. And so this just elaborates on that based on, you know, the conditions and situation and all that. I mean, it's fine to me. I don't,
Uh,
you know.
yeah, I mean, the issue is if you think about the supporting fiction of cinema, uh,
Mm-hmm.
I think that situations where the characters are hopelessly lost are also pretty hard to make all that engaging.
Sure, sure.
Because all those
Uh,
trees look the same on screen.
right, right. But so the thing is, like, it's what happens while you're hopelessly lost that gets focused on
Right,
to make that scene interesting or important, right?
right. And so
Um,
my takeaway there is to have it affect the random encounter table more than like be a big table of modifiers on chance to get hopelessly lost. That's
oh,
all.
sure. Right. Well, and so here's the thing though, if you were actually running this like a hex crawl, this is not separate from that, right?
Yeah, yeah.
All of that's
Uh,
integrated.
I,
It's just that here, so the problem is that this book has a problem of trying to present elements of a hex crawl type style of game, but also trying to balance that with the more cinematic way that you could play the game. And so the hex crawl stuff kind of gets separated and it's not necessarily connected. And if you're not used to thinking in those terms with that structure, then it just feels separate and not useful.
yeah,
I think it's, in other words, a presentation issue, not so much, oh, it's just a bad rule or it's not a valuable table. It's just that where it's at in the text is not very informative.
yeah. It really meant that teenage me bounced off this a bit and
Mm-hmm.
was sort of
Mm-hmm.
stymied by how to make that an engaging thing. And your points about how to handle it are good. Uh, and man, my 13-year-old self is gonna love your time machine.
Yeah, no kidding. I wish I had a time machine. Because the thing is, yeah. Well, anyway, I don't want to go off
What we
on a
have instead
giant
is a time
tangent.
constraint because it's now
Yeah.
time for chapter 15.
Yes, yes, it is. So D O oh, dealing with okay. So yes, DM's miscellany. Okay, so listening. Okay.
Yeah, it's a lot more nuance into listening rules
Yeah.
than the hear noise bits of the thief class are going to
Hmm.
give you, and it's a chance to hear noise by race, and it's just this is bad. I don't like this
Yeah, I just
because
whatever.
because it needs to shift to being a real skill system at this point. This is the moment where it sort of falls into dubious functionality and could maybe stand to be a real skill system.
Yeah.
But also, Chance to Hear Noise by Race was not going to get implemented well in published adventures.
Right.
There were too many room keys that were, you hear this noise over there when.
Right.
Well,
Yeah.
that's better actually
Yeah.
for the player's engagement, but
Right.
how
Yeah.
do you
No, I get
apply
it.
this
Yeah.
in an adventure is really the trick.
Yeah.
Doors, every adventurer's bane. See more adventurers stymied by doors than monsters.
I do appreciate that it addresses concealed and secret doors.
Yep,
Although,
that's pretty nice.
Whatever. Lycanthropy. Okay.
Yeah, you're gonna probably need these rules at some point, I suppose.
Yeah.
But
considering they were on like page 1 of the first edition DMG,
fair
or whatever, like I think it's okay if they're on page 110 or whatever. Planes of Existence, interesting.
Yeah. I always really liked this one. This section always really appealed to me because it just sort of trots out a bunch of different possible campaign settings. And a lot of them really appeal to me because, okay, late medieval Italy, yes, sign me up all day, please. I mean, Rabbit and I went to Venice and Rome for our honeymoon, so
Oh wow, yeah, nice.
I'm into this content. Then one set in a world similar to the Far East. Yep, okay. I love a good Asian campaign. I played a really great Romance of the Three Kingdoms campaign in college. Let's see.
Ancient Egypt and the height of the Bronze Age.
Yep.
I'm there for that.
That's some good Conan content. It's a fun time. The campaign in underground world dominated by dwarves. I mean, fun. We, other than the orcs, because ours isn't about orcs.
I was going to say, if you just drop off the last half of that sentence.
Seas of Adari straight up did that. That's a thing in our setting.
Nice.
Then you have Ravenloft. Good, very nice.
Right.
Truly fantastic world filled with genie-driven steam engines, elemental airships, and spell-driven telegraphs. Eberron. Campaign set in a tropical archipelago where travel is by canoe between islands of cannibals, giant beasts, and lost civilizations. Moana. I'd play that. I have a friend who's running it right now. Yeah, good.
Yeah, it's also just the Isle of Dread in a chain of islands that's the whole world.
Yep. I have a good friend who's running exactly that campaign.
That's nice. Yeah.
Campaign world set in Africa at the height of its great empires. That's Nyambe. Okay.
Yeah.
That was not entirely showered in glory when it came out, but I'm glad we tried it.
Yeah.
And I think it's something that we should keep trying to do.
I think if it was done now, it would be a hell of a lot better.
I'd like to think so. And a campaign based on the works of a particular author, such as Sir Thomas Malory's Le Morte d'Arthur or the Sagas of Iceland. Well, so this is that's a nice note because they are going to wind up releasing some of these as the historical reference greenbacks in second ed, but also that's just Pendragon, guys.
Yeah,
go for it. It's great. Like I wouldn't use D&D for it, but Pendragon. Then we actually get to the planes, though it's very light touch. The entire guide to the planes is less than a page here. You get one paragraph in the prime material planes for some reason. Because they haven't yet had the Spelljammer idea, right? That hasn't yet been thought of.
But they have to say that because they're referencing all these bullet points from the last little segment, right? Because basically all of these bullet points with the all the list of the campaign settings that you just described, all of those are different planes of existence. They're different prime materials.
Sure.
So they have to refer to them in the plural, right? And I actually, the reason I like this bullet list is that it basically says you can do whatever the hell you want with your campaign, and it's still D&D.
Yep. And then ethereal, inner planes, astral, outer planes, and a list of the outer planes. We're basically name checking the Great Wheel of Cosmology without any real depth to it.
Sure. And then we have a picture. Does your version have a picture of it?
No.
Mine has an image of the wheel with Sigil, the tower that the tower that leads up to where Sigil would be moving around.
Yep.
And then it's pointing at all of the, the Abyss, Pandemonium, Limbo, Isgard, Arborea, Beastlands, right?
That's much better.
Because remember, I'm in the reprinted edition or whatever, the revised whatever.
Right, for sure.
So,
no, they didn't lavish such treasures on this book. Everything after that is appendices. It is a lot of appendices, my folks. It's mostly about magic items.
Yeah, treasure tables, magic item tables. There's probably some dungeon dressing tables or something in here, if I recall correctly.
Maybe?
Magic item descriptions.
Nope, it ends on intelligent weapons. It is magic items of one kind and another, and treasure tables from here until the index. That's it.
Okay. I had forgotten that they did not include one of those. That is a loss.
It is, though not one that I would have recognized at the time, because you don't know what you don't have.
Right. Yep. So I think that finishes this tome for us, unless there's something you wanted to say about all the glorious stuff in the appendices.
No, I think I can let this one go. I think that, going through item by item won't be worth anyone's time.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, I do know that when I was a kid, I had no idea what I was supposed to do with XP values attached to all these items. That was just very...
And we talked about that in the XP episode too, I think. Yeah, because it's kind of a weird, it's odd.
It feels very good. The typeface they've chosen is very chill, and I like it. Text can be a little bit crowded on the page, especially for someone of your advancing years. But the art is quite good. Even the blue ink line art it's ultimately quite good and attractive, and I'd say a little more consistent than some of the stuff in the later printing.
Yeah, some of the stuff in here is very not good. Some of it's great. I mean, but yeah, no, I used to have the edition that you have, and I got rid of it because I don't play second edition anymore. And
that's a reason. Come on.
Yeah, I know. Well, but I'm trying to reduce my collection. And I probably should have just kept my DMG instead of getting rid of it, because I have the DMGs from a lot of editions I don't play anymore. A lot of different games that I don't play, actually. But yeah, so yeah, the reprinted one is, it's the green one that they did most recently. It's a beautiful book. It's very well done. It's just, I do like the original better.
Yep.
So that brings us to the end. I think we're done. I think we finished the DMG for second edition, which means that we are going to, in tomorrow's episode, we are going to hit the third edition DMG.
That is going to be an exciting time.